Happiness Project. This month, the July theme is Money is God in Action, and our goal is to get happy with our money. How many of you like to get happy with your money, or happier even? Okay, so this is good, and today I am talking about let the universe source you. Let the universe source you. And I want to start off, of course, with a funny story. This fellow says, my wife was fascinated by the elegant calligraphy on the handwritten menu in a Chinese restaurant. She took it home and spent months knitting a sweater with the Chinese characters down the front. And she was wearing it at a cocktail party when a Chinese physician asked her where she got the symbols. From a menu, she admitted. Do you know what they say? I'm afraid to ask, my wife said, but tell me anyway. Cheap but good. Part of the challenge in letting the universe source us is how we see ourselves. So I could say there's only one source, and you would probably be sitting out there going, yeah, we know that. I could say you are chosen because you exist, and you might say, right, we know that. And I could say you are unique and unrepeatable, and you go, yeah, we've heard that before, so what? But see, the question then becomes, in the back of our minds, kind of, when we're thinking about being sourced by God, which really is being filled with what we need and what we desire to live and express as we are here to. So kind of in the back of our minds, we have this, well, I have other experiences in life than feeling sourced or being sourced. So that must mean something. What must it mean? Well, I have experienced ups and downs, struggle, lack, pain, and hurt. So that must mean one of several things. Either I don't really deserve to be sourced. I haven't earned it well enough yet. I'm not worthy in some way. Or God is too busy to notice me. Or God is really neutral and doesn't care if I'm suffering or struggling down here, or God doesn't really love me, but I don't want anybody to know that I've discovered this, or that God is testing me, or that God's will is something else for me other than happiness and feeling sourced. Can you relate to any of these things? All right, now, the better question isn't, why would God source me? I mean, after all, take a look, right? The question really is, why wouldn't God source us? Because, see, here's the thing. We have been miseducated to misunderstand and misinterpret what we're experiencing, who we are, and what it means to be sourced. So the question might be, why do we withhold from ourselves? Now I'm going to give you a couple of really simple examples. Have you ever noticed that you were hungry, but you didn't go and eat right away? You did something else instead. And you kept on noticing that you were hungry, but you didn't go and get something to eat. Has anybody ever done that? Okay? Or you noticed that you were chilly, but you didn't go and get a sweater. You kind of waited for some reason, whatever it was, and you didn't really go and get it, and you kept being chilly, and you noticed you were chilly. Anybody ever had that experience? Yeah? Or too warm, or too tired, and you didn't lie down, right? So why do we withhold from ourselves when we notice that we need something? We're distracted, we're preoccupied, we think something else is more important, we just don't wanna at the moment, so we withhold something from ourselves. It's little, it's not a big deal, or so it seems, right? Now, one of the things about infinite sourcing is that if the divine presence is one, if it really isn't divided up, if it's one, then it can't withhold anywhere. without withholding from itself, which would be odd. So its completeness, its sourcing has to be fully present everywhere. Now I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you feel like you're better givers than you are receivers? Just raise your hands up here. Tell the truth, okay? So what we want to be able to do, and even those of you that are better receivers than you're givers, what we need to be able to do then is to expand our ability. To expand our ability to receive, to open the portals more broadly. And if we are better at receiving than giving, then we need to open and expand our portals of giving. Because this is a circular flow. It's a circulation. It has to have some place to be received. So if our receivers are squashed down for any of those reasons that we have misinterpreted or imagined because we've been miseducated, if our receivers are squashed down, then the universe fully sources us at the level that we're letting it in. But the presence of that sourcing is always there. So actually, it's almost like we can't shut down the flow of the sourcing, but what we do is we shut down our awareness of the sourcing by misinterpreting it or making assumptions about what it has to be or look like. Are you with me here so far? That didn't sound too good. I'm not so sure about that, but I'll just keep on here and you jump on any place you can, okay? Meister Eckhart, the mystic Catholic priest from the Middle Ages, who was eventually excommunicated by the Catholic Church 400 years later when they figured out what he'd been saying. He said this: God created all things in such a way that they are not outside himself, as ignorant people falsely imagine. Rather, all creatures flow outward, but nonetheless remain in God. God created all things this way, not that they might stand outside of God, nor beyond God, but that they might come into God and receive God and dwell in God. For this reason, everything that is bathed in God, is enveloped by God, who is round about us all, enveloping us. And enveloping us is not just surrounding, but permeating and expressing as us. So here we are, the ones that the universe chose to express as, and the greatest possible delight for the universe is to be fully expressed. And to be fully expressed is to be fully sourced. Now, if we already know everything in advance, or if we already can do everything, or if there are no contrasts or struggles, no challenges, nothing to discover ourselves against, there's really no point in doing form, because there's nowhere to go. But if we come into form with things to discover, with things to learn, with things to express, and we are problem solving in that process, we discover more completely who we are and what we're able to do. We can become more aware of the fullness of spirit that we truly are. And in the discovery of it is an increasing experience of delight. But that means that we have to hold our struggles differently than we do. We have to hold things differently than labeling them as failures and problems and inadequacies. And it's so easy to do that in New Thought, because it's just so easy to say, well, you wouldn't have that problem if you just clear up your consciousness, if you were just thinking right, and we have learned not to do that to each other, but we still do it to ourselves. You see, and that's the place where we're in our own way. As soon as we judge that we've done it wrong, we're in our own way. We're in our own flow, standing in the middle of it going, no, not me, not here, thanks anyway, poor me. You know, it's just silly. But it feels real, doesn't it? I mean, it feels so true. I've been victimized, or I'm suffering. Well, yeah, the me of the moment. Now, here's the thing. This is always my argument with Buddhists who say that the truth is that there's no self, there's no whatever that is, that whatever that is. Here's my deal. If there's really nothing there, who's paying attention? Now, if you just go in your head right now and you step aside from whoever you think you are, whatever your name is, whatever your opinions are of yourself, however old you think you are, whatever you think is going on in this moment, and you just observe the self that's doing that, okay? You can notice the self that has those thoughts. You can notice that you're having those thoughts in your head, right? You can notice that you're having this sensory experience right now. Who is noticing? You think, you're having the experience of it. But somebody is noticing, and you're aware of that noticing. Is this making sense? Hello? We all speak English here, yes? There's a consciousness that is present. There is an awareness. That's real. I don't know about the rest of it. I don't know if that's a who, but there is an awareness. Look at your cat. There is an awareness. Your cat is aware of something. So awareness is, and we're the expression of the awareness, and that expression is not only the presence, but also the law, the creative law. We can't get outside the presence, and the law is the presence in action. So we can't get separate from the law because we're also that. We are that. It's not just that we can use it. It's not just that it uses us. It's that we are that happening, that creative process happening. We're part of its expression and we're part of it happening. So, when we don't appreciate what we have already, that's part of our sourcing. When we don't appreciate who we are, that's part of our sourcing. When we believe that we have to do it all ourselves, whatever that means, we're not appreciating our sourcing. We think that we're separate, and when we think that we're separate, we don't trust God's motives. What if God wants something else? Something I don't want at all. What if God wants me to, I don't know, become a nun? Marry that person I don't like? Keep this job that I hate because this is what I have to do? Whatever it is we're blaming God for. What if we turned it around and we thought about this as, I am already being sourced. Okay, so I'm being bullied at work. How exactly is that sourcing me? Well, what are your choices around that? Are you believing what's being said? Are you taking a stand inside yourself to realign with what you know is true about who you are? Are you letting somebody else's opinion form an idea of who you think you are? Or are you letting it go? In all the ways that you can choose to respond to it, you're being sourced by the universe to discover that you're more than that. And that's a gift. So that annoying bully is unwittingly serving a purpose or a role for you that is sourcing you. Weird, but true. I think. Because what can God do but source us? What can God do but say, yes, grow, experience, create, delight, learn, fall down. Do the whole thing. Do the whole thing. So how do we then correct our misunderstanding or our miseducation in order to feel sourced even when what we're feeling doesn't feel good? How do we move into a place where we can welcome sourcing and trust it even when it doesn't look like what we wanted? And I think part of it is when we look at science, which we're very dependent upon in the West, you know, that's kind of our God, science. So when we look at science and all the stuff that it's discovering and proving, it gets more and more like there's only one thing. There's only one thing happening. It's happening everywhere, doing everything. And science keeps proving stuff now, and we get so excited about it, that the ancients knew and talked about somehow without going through a scientific process. How did they know that stuff? We can't figure it out. How did they know that stuff? So the ancients knew, and we're getting to discover what they knew in a way that we can know and believe in and feel confident in, because it works through science, which is what we want to trust and be comfortable with. So the universe has found a way to source us that serves us where we are now in what we do and what we believe. My grandson is 8 years old. From the time he was old enough to notice, if we try to get him into a body of water bigger than the bathtub, and by the way, he always loved baths, if we try to get him into a body of water bigger than a bathtub, he would have hysterics. I mean, it wasn't just he didn't like it, he was terrified. And this went on. And finally, his folks gave up struggling about it. You know, it was like, okay, you know, we're not, my son said, I'm not afraid of the water. I was never afraid of the water. He's afraid of the water. So we got him water wings. Like, let it go. Stop struggling. Stop trying to get him to be comfortable in the water. My daughter-in-law just posted a thing. Now he's swimming like a fish. He's decided it's his thing, and he's going to go for it. What happened? I mean, to me, that's a miracle. A healing happened. How did that happen? Well, they let go of thinking of it as a problem. All of a sudden, it was okay that he was how he was. Next thing they knew, he was swimming. What happens if we stop thinking about what's going wrong as a problem and looked at it as something that's meant to source us? Now, that's going to be weird from the point of view of a lot of other people if what you're going through is difficult. You know, your friends and family are going to say, oh, gosh, you know, and have you had an appointment with your therapist lately? Because the idea of looking at this as something that could be positive seems really weird. Because where we're being supported in our world is to, ain't it awful? To think, ain't it awful? And we don't know how to solve this, and it's really bad that this is happening, and aren't they terrible for doing this to us? That's really popular. I get lost in that all the time. Does anybody else get lost in that? How could they do that, whatever it is, to the environment? How could they do that to this poor group of people who deserves to not be disenfranchised? And that all might be true on a certain level, but also what's true is something larger is trying to source us somehow right through that problem. If we could look at it differently and say, what is it we need to learn here? Not about what they're doing wrong. What is it we need to learn here about what's happening in this dynamic between us? You know, even as I'm saying this, there's part of me going, I didn't plan to say this. I don't want to be saying this. I don't want to do this. So I know it's true. So what we want to do is recognize that the odds of us being here by chance are astronomical. The odds of you being here individually by chance are astronomical. And so we can only conclude that we are it, that we matter, that we are essential. Each one, each I is essential. And that we have the power to empower what we love. Now, love is a little word that I use for giving our time, our attention, our energy to. You know, when we have a war on something, we love it. We're putting our time, our attention, and our energy into a war on something. So, why not have a love fest? Now I sound like a hippie, but you know, that's my generation. What can I say? You know, why not have a love on something instead? A peace on something instead. Peace is now? It is. Where else can it go? But it only shows up to the degree that we recognize it, that we put our attention on it. Instead of where is conflict, where is peace? Where are pockets of peace? Where are pockets of harmony? Where is it happening? Where is it working? Where is it being celebrated, experienced, expressed? We're not looking those things up, but maybe we should be. So the truth is, God is fascinated with us. Because God is fascinated with expression, delighted, expressing, experiencing, being, unfolding. And there's nothing wrong with it anywhere. There's nothing wrong with it. But it can also morph and evolve and change right in us. Now, here's the interesting thing. When my grandson decided that he loved to swim, my daughter-in-law just posted on Facebook this thing where she said, another parent was just using Toby as an example of swimming technique to his kid. She said, I feel like I'm in an alternate universe. It was like, this change has been so incredible. And we think, well, of course, children learn. They change, they can grow, they can expand. Now I want to tell you something. God is not limited by time or space, and so it doesn't matter how long you've been struggling with a particular thing. Health, money, relationships, whatever, business, spirituality, doesn't matter. It's not a limitation until we claim it as a limitation. We think a long period of time of something being a problem means it's entrenched. It is if we say it is. But how about if it's just as easy to change that as it was for Toby to change his mind and decide now swimming is his thing, he's going to go for it. So whatever the challenge is, let's play with it right now. Let's welcome it as something we can interact with, as something we can learn from, as something that's actually here to serve us and serve our expansion and our beingness and our wholeness, no matter what it looks like. Hafiz, the Sufi master, wrote, now is the time to know that all you do is sacred. Now, why not consider a lasting truce with yourself and God? Now is the time to understand that all your ideas of right and wrong were just a child's training wheels, to be laid aside when you can finally live with veracity and love. And then a little aside, he says, Hafiz is a divine envoy whom the beloved has written a holy message upon. And then he goes back and says, my dear, please tell me, why do you still throw sticks at your heart and God? What is it in that sweet voice inside that incites you to fear? Now is the time for the world to know that every thought and action is sacred. This is the time for you to deeply compute the impossibility that there is anything but grace. Now is the season to know that everything you do is sacred. Isn't that brilliant? What a reminder of who is sitting in your chair, of who that really is. So let us refuse unworthiness. Refuse that false idea, that lie. And every day, take some time to let that idea, that thought, that falsehood drain out of us, and to be filled instead with sourcing, with a rich fullness of divine presence. I want to conclude this morning by reading a treatment to you from Dr. Ernest Holmes. Now remember, when Dr. Ernest Holmes writes treatments, very often the majority of what he's doing is a series of affirmations, and that's what this is. So take this in as if it's your own voice speaking to you now. My opportunities are unlimited. There is a divine urge to express. It permeates me and fills all space and all people. All of my affairs are in its hands. To it are clearly visible the best ways, methods, and means for my greater expression. I leave my affairs in the hands of this principle and cooperate with it. Today, the possibilities of my experience are unlimited. The Spirit flows through me, inspiring me and sustaining that inspiration. I have ability and talent, and I am busy using them. This talent is divinely sustained and marketed under a universal plan of right action. Life lies open to me, rich, full, abundant. My thought, which is the key to life, opens all doors for me. I am one with infinity, divinity. I realize this unity. I proceed on my way as one who knows that God goes with me into an eternal day of infinite privilege. I have only to open the portals of my soul and accept that which is ready to express through me. Today, I fling these portals wide. Today, I am the instrument through which life flows. And so we are, and so it is. Namaste. Thank you. And so, our going deeper is the fact that we are here is evidence that we are already enough. We are worthy of all good now. Now close your eyes for just a moment and listen to this again. The fact that we are here, are we here? We are here. The fact that we are here is evidence that we're already enough. We are worthy of all good now. Yes, and so it is.